If one may suggest, I'll talk for a while and perhaps we'll be good enough to discuss a question after I have spoken. Is that all right? Question down, tear to pieces. Let's go into it thoroughly through discussion, if you will kindly do that. First of all, I wonder why we educate our children. Considering what the world is, or what the world is becoming, more and more corrupt, degenerating, breaking up into various nationalities, tribal warfare, and preparation for war throughout the world, building up of armaments of every kind, nuclear bombs, and the whole destructive nature of man. Violent, corrupt, brutal, with occasional flashes of affection. This is what the world is. The society which each one of us has made. Society that is not put together by some extraneous, exotic people, but by every human being living on this earth. We have created this society, and we cannot possibly change that society, which is immoral, unethical, fragmented. We human beings throughout the world have created that society. And we are educating our children, or our grandchildren, to conform more or less to the pattern set by the society. Either they become soldiers, sailors, businessmen, scientists, psychologists, or some kind of crazy monks, and so on. Our education is bringing about fragmentation of human action. And one questions, as we must, why we educate our children. What's the point of it all? What's the point of becoming a MA, PhD, scientist, or philosophers or businessmen, or some kind of religious, romantic, sentimental human being, idealistic, and the world into which they have to fit. Is that what we want our education to be? So one must, if one may, ask, where is all this leading us to? What's the point of becoming a businessman, scientist, all that you know human beings are trying to become, ending up in mediocrity? One may be excellent in some career, a great scientist, or a great philosopher, or excellent mathematician. But his own private life is very mediocre. Mediocrity, the very root meaning of that word, means going up halfway up the hill, never going to the very top of that hill. Right? That's the root meaning of that word, mediocre. And we are turning out students all over the world to be mediocre human beings. They may have excellent degrees, excellent positions, prestige, but their daily life is conflict, misery, uncertainty, and so on. This is our life. And one asks, what's the point of it all? Surely human beings, not only in this country, but throughout the world, wherever you go, they're seeking security. Not only physical security, but psychological, inward security. Each person, each so-called individual is struggling in this chaotic world, almost insane world, to find some kind of security. Religious security, security in the family, security in a career. But the drive is to find some kind of security, to be safe, to have some kind of protection. And this very struggle, the so-called individual struggle, is, as one sees in the world, destroying the world. This is a fact. Each nation, each community, each family, each individual is seeking security. In opposition, in contradiction to other individuals. So there's always this competition, violence, everlasting struggle, conflict, from the moment one is born till you die. This is again irrevocable fact. If one examines one's own life closely, without any prejudice, this is the way of our days. an endless conflict. And we are educated in the schools, in colleges, in universities and so on, to have great knowledge about the earth, the whole world. And apparently, I hope you're good enough to listen to this, apparently knowledge is not saving man. You have accumulated knowledge, historically, scientifically, knowledge in the world of business, and so on. We have tremendous knowledge. And that knowledge is always limited and will always be limited by its very nature. Knowledge is the outcome of vast experience. By 2 million years, or 1 million years, or 400,000 of years, man has experienced, gathered knowledge, and that knowledge, that experience is always limited. There is no complete knowledge about anything and can never be. We are not being dogmatic. We are not saying this is so, but it's a fact. Look at the scientists, how they are gathering knowledge, adding. In the last 200 years from Galileo till now, man has accumulated tremendous knowledge about nature, matter, astrophysics and so on, based on hypothesis, experience, testing, adding and so on, all the accumulative process of science. And that knowledge is limited. Business knowledge, also every kind of knowledge is always limited. You may disagree with that. But if one looks at it rather closely, knowledge is based on experience. And experience is limited. So, experience, knowledge, stored in the brain as memory, and that memory being limited, so is thought. Thought is limited. And that's the only, apparently, instrument we have, and that has created, may I use the word havoc in the world? Thought has created great cathedrals, great temples, mosques. Thought has created all the things that are in them. Well, thought has created the nuclear bomb. Thought has brought about extraordinary medicines, surgery, ultra-rapid communication. Thought has put together the computer. We won't go into whole use of computer. So thought has created, on one hand, extraordinary technological advancement, and also wars, which has created nationalities, which is glorified tribalism, and this thought has also created God. Do you accept all this? And thought in our relationship with each other, intimate or otherwise, is bringing about a division in our relationship. These are all facts, not the speaker's personal opinions or evaluation or judgment. We are looking at facts. Facts being that which has happened or that which is happening. And our education, whether the Western type of education or the so-called Eastern, if there is such thing, is making human beings into extraordinary trivial. He's fragmented because thought in its very nature is divisive. And so we are educating our students, our children, to be what? To be like us, to follow the same old pattern. The communist world, the totalitarian world, according to historical decisions and their own peculiar conclusions, the communists say, control this environment to change man. That's one of their texts. And they have tried to control human thought with all the disastrous results. And the so-called democratic world, with all its ideals, is opposed to the other. So the world is divided into ideologies, into ideals, the communist, the religious, the democratic, the dictatorship. So ideals, ideologies are breaking up the world. The Christian faith, with all its dogmas, rituals, and the Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim world, is all based on this faith belief, ideologies, and books, which are called sacred. I don't know why they're called sacred, but they're called sacred. So the word is this. Again, this is not the speaker's prejudice, but these are facts. Whether you like it or not, these are facts. And we, grown-up people, assume such extraordinary authority over our children. The other day, when we were in California, a car in front of us, on the bumper, was a sticker. You know what it is? On the sticker, it said, "Question all authority." You know, to see that on a bumper in California just a month and a half ago is an extraordinary thing. Here, tradition, authority, plays a tremendous part. Nobody questions, nobody doubts the political authority, the religious authority, the authority of any so-called religious books, the authority of the parents, the authority of our own knowledge. So our minds, our brains are conditioned. Conditioned not only in the West according to their particular culture, according to their environment, to their religions and so on, by their literature. In this country too, the brain is conditioned as Hindus. We belong to various categories of social structure. Conditioned by religion, by authority of religion, by tradition, by environment, by the food one eats and clothes and so on. So our brains are conditioned. That's a fact. By knowledge. And one asks, what's the point of all this marvelous education? If one has a parent, you must be why are you educating your children? To conform to all this? To have a life of endless conflict? And if you say that's the nature of man, that he must struggle. Through struggle you progress, which is such utter nonsense. And you see, trees struggle towards the light. But we human beings who have lived on this unfortunate earth which was slowly and carefully destroying, we are supposed to use our brains to be little more intelligent than the animal. And we, using our brains, if we use them at all, have come to this state, to the present state. Wars, conflict, unhappiness, anxiety, ridden with fear, pursuing pleasure, and the burden of sorrow. This is our life. One may not like to face it, one rather avoids it, but it's there, like a perpetual wound, like a disease. And we have become so accustomed to it. We put up with anything, especially in this country. Any kind of politics, any kind of corruption, callousness, all the rest. You see it all around you. So, come back to the same point. What are we educating them for? They pass exams, acquire knowledge in a particular field, and get a job. And the parents are only interested in that. Get a job, get married, be safe. And there is the whole world which is totally neglected. The world which is the psychological realm, the inward life you totally neglect. You stuff them with extraordinary information about matter, about physics, and so on and so on. But never pay attention to what is going on in the human psyche. It's not, we are asking most respectfully, aren't we concerned with the whole development of man, the holistic approach? Not one-sided approach, but be concerned with the whole cultivation of the human being. Scientists are saying there is the left side and the right side of the brain. Right side of the brain has never been used. It's there. And the left side is all the rest of it. Again, there is this division. We divide everything. Not that there is no division between man and woman, between the beautiful trees and ourselves. But we never have asked, as we are asking now, if I may, is it possible to use the whole brain not one part of it. A holistic approach to life. Not the approach of thought, which is divisive, because it is limited. And so we're asking, could we educate our children not merely to become technicians, electronic experts and so on, but also to go very deeply into oneself. Because that world is limitless. And if that world is not understood and lived, not words don't matter, but lived, which demands great integrity, honesty. From that world, the outer can bring about a change, but not from the outer to the inner. That's what the communists are doing. That's what the socialists are doing. That's what the Democrats are doing. They are hoping by changing the outer, they're going to change the inner structure, nature of human beings. But we are saying the contrary. That's the understanding the depth of life, the beauty, the goodness, and so on. Inwardly, to understand by watching in our relationship what we are and penetrating deeper and deeper without analysis. It becomes very difficult. I won't go into all that. Analysis, briefly, analysis implies the analyzer. Is the analyzer different from that which is analyzing? Of course not. You follow? The analyzer is part of thought. And the analyzed is also part of thought. So he's playing a game with himself all the time. So we are saying that requires much, that's not the point for the moment. We are saying the analyzer is the analyzed, the observer, the one who witnesses is the observed, is that which he is witnessing. There is no division between the two. Because the present is both the past and the future. I'm sorry, that leads us to another direction. So is it possible to educate our children, the students in this school, in other schools connected with this school, to bring about a holistic approach to life? And that demands affection, love. Don't get bored by that word. One asks if that feeling exists at all. Whether we actually love our children. Love. Not dominate, not tell them what to do. That comes a little later. But do we really love our children? Not love is different from sentimentality. Love is different from devotion. Where there is love, there is responsibility. And to have this holistic education implies great affection, love. And where there is love, there is intelligence, not the cunning intelligence of thought. Right, I've finished for the moment. I've talked for half an hour. Let's discuss, if you will kindly. Tear to pieces what the speaker has said. Question, doubt. There is an art in question. So please, it's up to you.
So can I ask a question? So you were saying about the holistic approach to life and the use of all the faculties of the brain. Using all the faculties of the brain.
Faculty.
Yes. Today we do not know the total exploration of the brain, but can this become a voluntary act, using it in totality? Will the use of all the faculties of the brain become a voluntary act?
Can the use of all the faculties of the brain become a voluntary act?
Do we do anything voluntarily? Or is it always compulsive? Or is there is a motive behind our action? Is there action which is spontaneous, free? So I'm asking. Or is our action is always conditioned by reward and punishment? Use the words voluntarily. Right? What does that mean? I volunteer to join the army. I volunteer freely to become a businessman or a scientist and so on. Isn't that behind that voluntary urge, isn't there a motive? Motive means movement. And that movement has already set a direction. So there is no voluntary action. So the brain, as far as one observes, I'm not a specialist on brain, please understand, but we have talked to a great many brain specialists. They go so far that the brain is conditioned. And that conditioning is based on fear, reward and punishment. And that brain is being so conditioned, can never be free. And there are those philosophers, they exist centuries and so on, they say that conditioning of the brain, that condition can never be free, unconditioned. You can modify it. You can make the prison more beautiful. more toilets, better food. But that condition will always exist. We are questioning. We are saying that it is possible to be totally free from all conditions. You may not, you know your right to question, to find out if it is possible. But to find out from another is like playing a game. But if you went into it yourself, find out how one is conditioned and the causes, and so on. All that demands a great deal of inward inquiry, so that we are not free human beings. So obvious. We are conditioned by the environment, by the society, by our religions, by our literature, and so on.
When we try to say that we want to educate our children to have a holistic view of life, does that not itself become an ideal and escape from what we are in today and create all the problems of an ideal?
He says, does not the very idea of a holistic education soon become a thought and so a deviation from what is?
You understood? Did I repeat the question? A deviation from what is. A holistic approach, the question asks, doesn't that deviate from what is?
No.
Huh?
What he says is, the holistic approach soon becomes an idea and so it deviates from.
Yes. What is an idea? This is for the experts. What is an idea? The original meaning, the etymological meaning from Greek and Latin and so on. Idea means to observe, to see, to clearly perceive. And from that perception, make an abstraction called an idea. And that abstraction becomes more real than what is. Am I making a right, sir? So when you use the word holistic, it is not, you can make up into an idea. But I say, to find out what it means to live a holistic life is to inquire first what is, and whether that what is can be changed radically, and so on. It's not an idea, it is a way of living. But hearing the word holistic, you can make an idea of it, an abstraction of it, and live according to the abstraction. And therefore that becomes a division. Right?
Sir, you have dilated upon thought.
Would you kindly sit down, sir? All right, sir.
You can sit down and talk.
Yes, sir. What were you saying, sir?
Now, is that complete? That's why I just wanted.
That's complete. You have answered that question. He wants to have completed that answer. Yes.
Now, you have dilated upon thought. Thought is the root cause of so many things. Thought has created the temples, thought has created science, thought has created masks, thought has created nationality. It is a glorified tribalism. in that stream, thought has been condemned. Am I correct?
I haven't condemned it.
Then, when we list out all these things, thought is the motive force, whether it is for nobler ideals or for evil ideals. Am I correct, sir? Am I correct in my...
No, may I say, sir, first of all, we have not condemned thought. We said thought is the only instrument we have now. And that thought is limited, and therefore whatever it does is fragmentary. It creates on one hand extraordinary medicines, communication, and so on, computer and so on. On the other hand, creates war, which destroys the other. Right? So, as that is the only instrument apparently we have, and that instrument is bringing about such terrible effects in the world, shouldn't we try to find out if there is another instrument which is not intuition? Is there another instrument which is not touched by thought?
Then we have to depend on the instruction of some other agency.
What's that?
To find out that, we have to depend on someone else
No,
to tell us or to
No.
inform us or to make us realize it.
we depend on others for almost everything. Right? One depends on the milkman, on the postman, on the doctor, on the government. One depends on one's wife and husband. One depends almost on everything. And through dependence, one grows attachment. Right? Suppose I'm married, I depend on my wife. Right, sir? Is that so or not? Am I treading on a sacred cow? I depend on my wife. So I gradually get attached to her. Right? Am I all right? And through attachment, there grows jealousy, anxiety, fear. No? No? You should know. So is love attachment? Would you kindly inquire into that? If that was...
Sir, is it possible that the thought processes belong to the left hemisphere produce so much noise that it's not giving us the opportunity to see the signal, the real signal that we are seeking for to guide, which may belong to the right hemisphere? Is it the noise in the left that is doing all this problem?
So the problem arises, sir, whether that noise can be silent. Right? Can the brain, which has its own rhythm, natural rhythm, and not that rhythm being imposed upon by thought, which makes the noise, can that noise end? That is quite a different problem.
Sir, yours is the
Hello,
first
sir.
talk in a series which is supposed to deal with the question of the seminar topic, values in education. Sir, I think I will not be far wrong if I state that the purpose of all education, at least the stated purpose of all education, including Soviet school education, is to create an integrated person. This is the alleged purpose. I was reading a book the other day, The Problems of Soviet School Education. There the objectives of Soviet school education are clearly stated. Now, the question is not, sir, what the objectives of school education are. I think it's generally conceded they are to create an individual who can think for himself, who is integrated, who can think for himself. Now, I think, sir, if this is correct, then what is required is that there is a demand for excellence. Then only a person can really think for himself. Now the question, this is related to
So won't
values.
you come up here?
Sir, this is related to values. Now, if there is a demand for excellence,
Come and sit here, sir.
sir, please let me
Thank
complete.
you.
Let me complete here.
They can all hear you, sir, better. I am glad the throne can be occupied by others. Please go on, sir.
You have to state from the beginning.
No, so far as I understand, the stated objective of all education, objective stated by responsible people everywhere, is to create an integrated individual who can think for himself. This includes also the objectives of Soviet school education. It's a question of approach that varies the question of perception, which is different from place to place, from culture to culture. And I think we are looking here for some way of creating that perception which truly leads to an individual who can think for himself. And I think this is related in our context, so far as I can see, to a demand for excellence, not only on the part of the teacher, but how is the teacher going to demand excellence from the students? Now, sir, the difficulty arises this way, as I see, that excellence and its pursuit is essentially judgment-free. I would even go to state that excellence is even value-free. Then, if this is the perception of a teacher, if he really truly perceives it, perhaps he can convey to the student the role of tradition, the role of values, social values, and their true place in their lives. But the difficulty arises is that whereas an excellence is value-free, how is that teacher to convey the values in life that are required by a child in hundreds of the things that a child has to do or to do? I think this is a point that I should like you to discuss.
Don't. Sit here, sir. See, I question whether we're individuals at all. First. And I also question the whole concept of man. Are we individuals? Are we separate entities? Of course, physically, all that's understood. But inwardly, psychologically, are we separate? Or is that an illusion?
So the question is that inwardly, psychologically, we are not separate. But the question, sir, is how is a teacher, an ordinary
We'll come to
teacher,
that, sir. We'll come to
how
that.
he is to proceed in interaction with the children? I mean, this is the crux of the matter.
What is the function of an educator? You're asking the same thing, right?
Yes, I would say the function of a teacher is to somehow help create an integrated person. I mean, this is again is a
No,
circle,
sir.
it's
No,
going
sir.
in
No,
circles.
sir. Just a minute, sir. You are a teacher. I'm your student. How are you going to help me to be totally, to understand the wholeness of my life, which is integration, integrity, and so on? Unless you are that, unless you understand the nature of all that and are living it, what's the good of your talking to me about it? It won't make any difference.
Yet what is happening is not entirely pointless, sir, is it?
Isn't it
Sir,
more?
sir, look, I am a teacher in a university. No, boys come to me with a variety of their problems, not necessarily scientific problems. No, a certain type of relationship gets established. It is, I feel bound by that relationship. I value that relationship. People, if children come to me, we discuss. Now, I do not know, sir, what the result is. Is it all that necessary?
No, sir.
We discuss in affection. They come to me because probably they trust me. I talk to them because I have affection for them. We discuss. I don't know, sir, is it necessary to find out what is right, what is wrong?
It is necessary, isn't it?
How, sir? To my way of thinking, sir, it is
You've
not.
asked, may I,
Yes,
you've
please.
asked that question.
Yes.
What is right? Right? How does one find out what is right? I'll inquire, sir. I'm going to. Huh? How does one find out? Is it based on choice? This is right and this is wrong. Gone.
Mic is not. Sorry to disturb you.
Is right the opposite of the wrong? Is the good opposite of the bad?
No.
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 Wait a minute, sir. So, the right, what is right, is unrelated totally to what is wrong. Go slowly, sir, right? Right, sir?
This, sir, is understood. This, sir, again.
I question, it's not understood.
That's why I said, sir, that is it necessary to find out what is right and wrong, right or wrong?
We are doing it now.
But when a child
No,
comes to
wait,
a
sir.
teacher,
First, let's you and I be clear on this matter. Then we can talk about the child. Is right action the outcome of wrong action.
No.
So they are unrelated.
Yes.
So, if that is clear between you and me, that there is no opposite, right? Only that which is, right? Now, goodness is not the opposite of bad. Love is not the opposite of hate, and so on, right? If that's clear between you and me, then I am your student. I come to you. I want to find out what is right action, right? Is that right action lie or the outcome of choice? Choice. Should I do this or that? Right? Where there is choice, there is confusion. Because I don't know. This is surely. Agree, sir?
No, sir, this is all right. What I say is that till a child comes to me.
I want you and I forget the damn child. You and I are talking. Is right action born out of choice?
No.
No. But I must understand why choice exists.
Choice has to exist because there are a variety of function.
No, sir. No.
There is a function-oriented aspect to life which requires choice to be made,
Which,
a
sir?
conscious choice to be made.
Why? Why do I have to choose? Please explain to me why I have to choose between this career and that career. Does it depend on my parents? Does it depend on my motive? Does it depend on my desire for wealth and so on, so on, so on? Power, position, prestige, status.
At the same time, sir,
No.
you will also concede that some choice, there are some spheres where choice has to be made.
I question it.
Because, all right.
I choose that,
all
of
right,
course, between this clause
You have
and
to choose.
that, of course.
Whatever you choose becomes a choice. It is not
Sir,
accidental.
wait a minute. Were we talking about physical?
That's what I say, function. I specifically
no,
said
I misunderstood.
there is a choice that has to be made in day-to-day function. It is necessary.
Yes, between
And-
this clause, just sir, between this clause and that.
But that's what I meant when you say function, day-to-day function. Some choice has to be made. It's necessary.
Yes.
Now
Between this rotten car and that rotten car.
Yes, it's likely. It's so happens that this sort of choice gets carried to other spheres also.
That's what I'm objecting to.
You are right in objecting to that.
Yes.
But
That's what
the point, sir, is how does one convey it to a child?
I don't want to convey it before I've understood it. How can I convey something which I haven't
But
understood?
sir, there are teachers here in schools who are not the saints that you are.
Ah, no.
They are probably ordinary human beings trying to find their way about.
So don't put me on a platform.
But you, sir, happen to be. I
Sir,
mean, there is nothing I can do to bring you down.
Sir, I'm just asking, sir. I'm just asking. There is choice in material affairs.
Yes.
But that same is extended, that same movement is extended into the psychological world.
Yes.
And that's where I am objecting.
You are right in objecting. The point, sir, is this, that this apparently is some sort of a natural sort of tendency, where the brain perhaps feels that it should be carried through into all spheres. Perhaps that will be the safest thing to do. It does happen. Now the
Yes.
point, sir, is how does one convey?
This is the difficult. That's fairly simple.
May I ask something in this context?
So I'm not.
Professor Anderson was saying, that thought, as you described it, has a limited function, but thought somehow takes over and does things for which it has no basis. And you said there is an instrument, another instrument.
I didn't say that. Is there an
Yeah. If there is another instrument, what is the nature of investigation that leads to the understanding of a different instrument? If it is an instrument.
Is that what
No,
you
Principal Radan, my point is related, but a little different.
What you are saying is related.
I'll give you an example. Now, when I was in this Bangalore school a couple of years ago, I spent in there used to be culture class. In one culture class, where there was some 8, 9, 10 students. Now, one of the teachers, there was discussion, thought. One of the teachers made a statement that thought is pointless. Now, you see, now the question is that there is a great amount of sensitivity required on the part of the teacher to convey to a child, student, maybe even a senior student, the enormously important part and a useful part thought can play. And I think this will need to be emphasized perhaps even more. It gets emphasized automatically because so many things are being taught, mathematics, science, language, so
Yeah,
on.
I think that's very simple. Thought and choice are connected, right? You are talking about choice, and you are saying there is choice at the functional level. That's very simple. The deeper question is, how does one, when thought is taking over in various spheres in which it has no valid function, how does one approach and find out a different instrument? Because we are stuck in this instrument.
I'm
That's one
No, I am not thinking at the moment of instrument. What I am thinking at the moment is that there is a set of teachers, or there is a teacher, and he is to deal with children, dealing with students from time to time, every day. How does he set about interacting with the student from in day to day, thousands of situations every day? It requires a great amount of alertness and even to interact on a nominal level.
So, what should we do?
So what is the role? It brings in the question of values, because there may be a background is there. If one operates from that background, that the type of thing that you are talking about, it's all right. But sir, it requires a tremendous amount of awareness and sensitivity.
That's it, sir. Now, how do you...
And how does a teacher tackle the question of values when children ask it?
Now, so you raise the question, sensitive. Now, what does that mean, to be sensitive? Let's go step by step, shall we? On the board.
No, sir, it's not a question of boring. But I would like to proceed further.
Proceed.
Further.
I am your student, right, sir? I come to you. I say, sir, the whole world is divided in values. You have a value of certain kind, I have a value of certain kind. Right?
Yes.
I stick to my values and you stick to your values. We never question why do we have values at all.
Sir, I only know this thing, sir, that to a child
I'm your, I'm
No,
your,
sir, I'm just saying what happened to us
me.
when we listened to you 40 years ago. These are facts, this also should be remembered. You see, when we listened, three of us, I didn't directly listen to you when you came in 38 or 39, but two of my friends listened. They were so, overwhelmed by that. That one who had stood first in the inter-arts examination, he got a third class in BA.
But that can't be his mistake,
No,
no?
please, this was the effect. Let us not.
So what happens, sir?
Now, sir, the other person, the point, sir, the point that I'm making is that if a child comes to me, or child for whom I am responsible, I cannot tell him that the total system of values is wrong.
No, of course, I wouldn't say it at all.
Because otherwise he will go entirely haywire.
However, I wouldn't begin with
Then so this is what, how would you begin? I mean, this is what I
begin
require.
by asking what it means to observe. I will ask him what it means to be sensitive. Sensitive to the trees, to nature, to the rocks, to all that. What does it mean? To be sensitive means to have a relationship. I can be sensitive and not look at the rocks. So I'll begin with that. I'll go into what it means to be sensitive. Not when you see a poor woman, uneducated, dirty, what it means to have a feeling, a communication with a human being. I will begin with that. And I say, you have values. That woman is poor, therefore, discarded and contemptuous. Then that very value prevents you from being sensitive to that person. If you are class-minded, if you are aristocratic, if you are learned, and that becomes a barrier in communication with that woman. Unspoken. This is also obvious. I will begin with all that.
So when I got the circular regarding the seminar on values in education, I was not quite clear as to what the seminar is about.
I don't know.
And I think, sir, then the scope of the seminar needs to be redefined. Because
Which seminar?
this,
I see.
because the demand for excellence, and if we are creating an individual who can think for himself, essentially you are aiming for something which has no value in itself. It's value free.
You said
And it is judgment free.
You
You are making demands of an entirely different type. You are not trying to create any set of values. And therefore, I think the purpose of what we are talking about, or going to talk about during these 3 or 4 days, needs to be defined.
You were asking something, someone.
Nisa?
You answer.
Yeah. So you said thought has been an instrument used by men so far. And then you asked whether man could look for another instrument besides thought. May I ask, sir, that even when man has transcended thought, will the concept of instrumentality remain valid? Because even at the level of thought, you say that the thinker and the thought are one and the same. Then shall we be right in looking for another instrument, or rather transcend the whole area of instrumentality, and then, as you yourself said, actions flow spontaneously, there being neither an instrument nor user of instrument?
Perhaps I may have used the wrong words of instrument. We have now only thought, right, sir? And that is creating both good and the bad. And we have lived with that thought for the last 50,000 years. And we're still going on for the next 1,000 years with the same thought. Now we're asking, is there a different perception, a different observation, which is not touched by thought? And that means one has to understand very carefully, not merely verbally, but actually, the nature and the structure of thought. Going to thoroughly, so as to be absolutely clear. Thought is necessary when we're talking to each other. Thought is necessary to go from here to there, to drive a car, to write a letter, to do any technological thing. A carpenter, master carpenter, has to use thought, see what kind of grain the wood is, and he must be aware, know the instruments. So thought in all that those fields is necessary. Right, sir? Then, is thought necessary in the psychological world at all? The psychological world is the relationship between human beings. Is thought necessary in my relationship with my wife? Please answer that question. Is it necessary? Not merely denying it's not necessary, but in my actual relationship with my wife or husband or my friend, is thought necessary there at all, or that very thought brings about a conflict, a division between her and me? That is, thought creates the image between her and me. And that image she has made about me and I made about her. Those images are the cause of conflict between us. That is it possible to live without an image? Not say, yes, I agree, it's not possible, and just drop it, but keep the image going. To see whether there is an ending to image making. That's quite, follows, I won't go into all that. So, thought is necessary in certain directions, certain areas, and we are saying thought is totally unnecessary in the psychological way. That's all.
Sir, you are talking about inwardness. If there is an inward life, then it will solve many problems.
So I use the inward life, inwardness, or innocence, in the sense it's like a tide in the sea. Tide goes out and comes in, right? You understand what I'm saying? The tide is our reaction. There's the world which we have created, right, sir? Not the natural world, but the social world which we have created. And then from having created it, we become slave to it. So it's action between, as an ebb and flow. You understand, sir? Can that action stop? I don't know if I'm putting my question right. Have you understood what I said, sir?
Whether that can stop or whether they can continue in a better way.
Sir, our life is action and reaction, right? Would you?
Yes.
Our life is the social responsibility and individual responsibility. So-called individual responsibility. It's a tide, isn't it? Going, the society which we have created and becoming slaves to that society, it's like a tide, going in and going out. Right? Then I'm asking, can that tide of action and reaction stop? This requires, this is not just morning's few words. This requires great investigation. Because our senses respond very quickly, right? You tell me I'm a fool, and I respond very quickly. It's a reaction. Or you flatter me and I feel, oh, great. It's a reaction. Now, both to flattery and insult with no reaction.
In the normal situation, we are not able to appreciate that one, sir. We cannot understand the stoppage of action and reaction. It's full of life on both sides.
Yes, sir.
A situation which you are envisaging to understand us.
No, it's not. This is
We are
not.
able to understand the ebb and tide that you have given us, the action and reaction that you have explained so clearly. But the stage when you are telling that, can you imagine a situation when this ceases, a cessation comes?
It's not imagination,
It
sir.
has stopped now.
It has to be inquired into. It's not an imaginative process. I have to find out, when my teacher says you are a fool, what is my reaction? I watch it. Or I'm totally indifferent, which means I'm insensitive. I'm watching, I'm being aware, I'm being alert. Attention is not a reaction. Concentration is a reaction. But I won't go into all that, at least.
Is it samabhava?
What?
Samabhava.
I'm afraid I don't know any Indian language.
It is samabhava. Samabhava means equal view.
You see, the moment you translate into Sanskrit, I'm lost, because you are giving it a specific meaning, and I'm not. I'm an ignorant man.
Sir, may I question?
Just me, son, please. I don't read any books of all this. I watched, and in watching I realized the criteria is the world, what it is, not what it should be or what my imagination. The world is brutal. And that world is created by all of us. That's a fact. And I watch if I am brutal, whether I have violence. Not that I pursue non-violence, which is sin. I don't know, I won't go into all that. So I'm watching. In watching, there are no values. It is so. Either I'm violent or I'm not violent. Which, to use the word violence is a very complex process. Not merely physical anger and physical hurting somebody. It's much more complex than that. So, a brain that is alert, watching. And you can only watch if you're not prejudiced. If you say, well, my country is greater than any other country, then I'm not watching it. What's the implications of country? And so on.
At the beginning of your talk, you have questioned what is the point of our education, the point of educating our children.
Yes.
Can our intelligence, thought, go deeply into that question and answer that question rightly?
So, what is intelligence?
Means,
You use the word intelligence.
yeah,
What do you mean by that word?
I had two different meanings for thought and intelligence. Both are not the same, but that is where intelligence operates, then we may find the answer
Yes, sir.
of your question.
Yes. So, what do you mean by intelligence?
Not the fragmentary thinking.
Yes, sir.
I can't say what it is, but I can say what it is not.
All right.
Because I can't describe what
Alright.
intelligence is.
Would you say the intelligence of thought?
No.
Just me, sir, just me.
Yeah.
To build a computer, which is very complex, a certain quality of intelligence is necessary. Right?
Right.
So you are saying the intelligence of thought is not intelligence.
No.
Then what do you mean by intelligence? We see, sir, thought has extraordinary capacity of intelligence, certain quality of, in quotation marks.
Yes.
It has gone to the moon, which requires a great deal of intelligence. To build a submarine requires tremendous intelligence. To discover the nuclear bomb, work and discover, and that requires certain intelligence. You are saying all the activities of thought which has created a certain quality of intelligence is not the intelligence of which you are talking about.
Yes.
Right, sir?
Yes.
Now, is that intelligence, you are saying that intelligence acts rightly, always.
Yes. Sir.
Suppose I haven't got that intelligence. How is it possible for a human being to have that intelligence? Or is it just a theory? You understand, sir?
Yes.
Which is it? Is it a theory, or you are saying it is possible? One can have that, or there is that intelligence which operates. Now, tell me how that I don't know what that intelligence is. Is it possible for me to have that intelligence? That's what's implied in that question.
When there is that question, that what is the point of education? When there is that question, just we discuss with each other ideas and conceptions. Just we discuss, and I may point out some ideas, and you may point out some ideas. Is this pointing out ideas by each other leads to the answer?
No.
It won't.
No, certainly not.
So I have to go deep into myself. What is the point of educating my child? Is it to get a job, to be
Yes, sir,
fixed in the
yes, sir, we
society. And just we have discussed all that. And by going deeply questioning into that, can that questioning brings the answer?
Yes, sir, but it depends how you question. There is an art to question.
Yes. I ask you, what is that art of
question? But
Yeah.
then,
that is only leads to analysis.
yes,
And-
sir.
Yes, sir. I have a suspicion that sort of discussion tends to get lost in words. And I would personally like that some sort of a purpose is set to our 3 days or 4 days stay here.
What you were saying, sir?
No, I mean, what are we discussing? There must be a little sense of objective.
Yes, sir.
In
Let's
No.
do it. Let's do it. What would you like to discuss?
What I would like to discuss is that we have got the schools here, we have got teachers, and we have got students. And I would like the teachers and the students to tell us what they are doing. Now, the demand that you have made, which I sense in what you have said today, is an enormous demand on the teachers.
Yes, sir.
Virtually nothing on the children.
No.
Right?
First, teach
Now,
the
the first thing that the question that arises is, how are we meeting this demand? This is one thing. And second thing that arises is whether then school is the proper vehicle, or whether there is a need for another vehicle for meeting the type of demand that Krishnji is talking about. If the children have really no part to play, why have schools?
I know.
And sir,
Yeah,
sir,
I understand.
because I am now putting words to the type of demand that you are making. You are demanding it of the teachers.
Yes, sir.
So therefore, for the present, the students, the children are subsidiary.
I agree.
Then the question is whether the schools are the vehicle at this stage, the type of demand that Krishnji is making. And if school are vehicle, to what extent the school is the vehicle?
I'll answer that question. Isn't it time? We have no
No, it's time, sir, but I am looking forward to the principal and Radhika ji to come forward. I don't know how I have got caught here. If you will forgive me, I'll go back.
No. Don't come near me. Sir, teacher needs education as well as the student. Suppose we'll reverse the process. You're my student, I'm your teacher. I'm not only informing you about mathematics, let's leave it, but also I want to establish a relationship with you. I want to have a relationship with you where both of us are inquiring. Right? I'm going to help you, you are going to help me. To inquire into the whole psychological world. Right? We have said information, mathematics, science is different, right? In informing, talking about and informing mathematics, I have established a relationship with you in which both of us are inquiring, right? inquiry. So our relationship is entirely different. It's not I am the teacher and you are the poet. I am helping you to inquire. To inquire means to have no prejudice. Right?
I understand.
Now, so first I said, don't have a prejudice. You're full of prejudices. And I'm also full of prejudices. Now, let's talk about self where both of us are free of it. Right? I want to know if you're free of it. Don't ever say yes when you don't mean it. You see? So, I am full of prejudices. I think I'm a Brahmin, I think I'm a, you know, all the rest of it. And I have prejudices, opinions, evaluations, conclusions. And you have too. So let us see if we can be really deeply free. I will spend half an hour every day about that one thing, so that you and I, at the end of the term, are free of these beastly prejudices. Then our brain is free to inquire, right? Otherwise I can't. A first-class scientist, he may have a hypothesis, a theory, but he tests it. And if that test doesn't come up to his hypothesis, he scraps it. So we are going to test each other for the next week or whatever time to see that we're entirely free of prejudice. And that in that process, I've established an extraordinary relationship with you. And also I said, please, let's inquire into why you are frightened. You follow? I bring in the whole of life into this. That is the function of a school and a I can do it with my wife and with my children, but you understand, I do that too. But school is a ground upon which we can both walk. The word school means leisure originally, as you know. To have leisure to inquire.
So, sir, my point in asking few questions was to give some sort of a meaning to the type of discussions that we are going to have.
Now, let's start with that. You and the rest of us say, look, let's work out in our life if we can be free of prejudice. Yes, sir.
You reduce it to such proportions, it's very difficult to handle the situation.
No, so I'm aware that I'm prejudiced against you. I have opinions. Why do I have opinions? It's such a wearisome affair. It burdens the mind. It burdens our outlook. Why do I have opinions about politicians, about various Mr. Reagan or somebody else? Why? It's a waste of time, waste of energy, essentially, and so on.
So, if education is to gain holistic knowledge of what living is and to have a radical change of what living is, then whether teaching learning process can take place through analytical process or just only through synthetic approach.
if education is holistic, can this be done through an analytical process or through a synthetic process?
So I agree with now, just a minute, sir. How can I have a holistic way of living if I'm prejudiced? If I say I'm a Christian or I'm a Hindu, it destroys it.
So for a child, there is no question of prejudices or anything as such. Maybe for the teacher. And how should we let the child get knowledge of this life and at the same time be free from limitations and prejudices which go with analytical process and which is the nature of thought?
He is saying the same thing. He seems to imply that children don't have prejudices, whereas adults have prejudices. And
Sir, would you agree, children, because they live at home, they're brought up by their father and mother, are already conditioned? They're already conditioned, aren't they? They come to you. So this is... 1.5 hours is enough time. We meet. I didn't realize I was going to put through an hour and a half.